and to talk about design thinking for automotive engineers. That's a focus for the discussion today, and I'm very glad to be with you to discuss about this very important topic. And I had requested two of my colleagues and friends, Roshan and Stuti, to join me today. They are both experts in design thinking, and they'll be handling different parts of the session today. So, what I plan to do is take a few minutes to give you a very quick introduction to the topic of innovation and design thinking and why it is such an important future skill for automotive engineers. Once I am done, Stuti will take you through the entire design thinking framework and the five important stages of design thinking, followed by Roshan presenting a very interesting case study. It's a case study in the automotive domain itself, where he will show you how the application of the design thinking principles helps us to come up with innovative solutions and solve very difficult problems. So this is the plan for the discussion. So let me take a minute to project my screen. I hope you can all see my screen. So thanks for joining us on the eve of the Deepavali festival. So let's start by wishing you all a very happy Deepavali, wishing each one of you and your family a very happy Deepavali from the Mahindra and Mahindra family. So nice to be spending this evening with you all. So design thinking for automotive engineers is part of a series of talks under the theme Mobility Engineer 2030. This is a series of talks given by Mahindra leaders, and it is hosted by NPTEL. So I am Shankar, Dr. Shankar Venugopal, a Vice President with Mahindra and Mahindra. Also the Dean of the Mahindra Technical Academy. I am based at the Mahindra Research Valley in Chennai. I have my two colleagues, Suti Singh, who is a manager at the Mahindra Technical Academy, and Roshan Mehta, who is a deputy manager at the Mahindra Technical Academy. Very soon, both of them will introduce themselves, and then we will introduce the topic of design thinking. So, some of you might have already attended the other talks in this series. The first one was on future of mobility, an overview of all the future mobility technologies, followed by a talk on multidisciplinary optimization in automotive engineering. The third was data science and artificial intelligence, how these are finding application in automotive product design. And there was a fourth, which I gave on future skills for mobility engineers. And the one last week, the most recent one, was on invention and intellectual property for automotive engineers. And today, it is design thinking for automotive engineers. I'm Shankar. So I'm with the Mahindra and Mahindra since 2017. And prior to joining Mahindra and Mahindra, had held technology leadership roles at Cummins, Honeywell, Dow Chemicals, General Electric, GE, and the Indian Space Research Organization. So at Mahindra, I'm responsible for driving technology innovation across the automotive and the farm business. Also head the intellectual property and knowledge management functions, and I'm the dean for the Mahindra Technical Academy. By way of background, I have a Ph.D. in material science from the Indian Institute of Science, and prior to that, I studied physics. Also, did my executive management education from the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. I'm an active inventor. I have a few patents and patent applications in the pipeline, and I like to speak on technology and innovation topics. So I've been given a few TEDx talks in the past. Let me call my colleague, Ms. Stuti Singh, to introduce herself at this stage. Stuti, over to you.
Yes. So first of all, wish you a very, very happy Diwali. Diwali wishes from the entire NTA team to you all. And thank you so much for joining. I am Stuti Singh from Mahindra Technical Academy. I handle the digital learning part of Mahindra Technical Academy. So I am a management graduate in a engineering setup. So I am a gold medalist from University of Petroleum and Energy Studies. I am also All India topper in IIT Madras Design Thinking Certificate. And I have also completed my faculty development program from IIM Bangalore. and was also awarded by Times Ascent for Best Digital Solutions. And as my hobbies, I'm a traveler and adventurer. I'm like a creative soul on an extravaganza. So I'm really looking forward for the talk ahead and see you soon. Now I hand over to
Sure.
Roshan.
Thanks, Suti, for joining us. Actually, you sharing your insights on design thinking is going to make this session very interesting. Thanks for joining. Let me
Thank you.
call my other colleague, Roshan, who is going to present a very interesting case study on design thinking to you today. Over to you, Roshan.
Yeah, very good evening and wish you a happy Diwali as well. I am Roshan. I am an MBA graduate from Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. I have graduated as a mechanical engineering at Mahindra Technical Academy based out in MRV, Chennai. I am responsible for designing and executing the Fresh Hires training program. I am level 1 TRIS certified from Matrix, and I am also design thinking certified from IIT Madras NPTEL platform. Thank you all for this joining for us in this talk. Over to
Thanks,
Dr. Shankar.
Roshan. Thanks. Thanks for putting together this very insightful case study for the session today. Really look forward to that particular discussion. Um, with this, let me introduce the plan of the talk. So I'm going to focus on the very first topic, which is to introduce what exactly is design thinking and why it is so important for automotive engineers. Once I do that, my colleague Stuti would step in and she will take you through the 5 stages of the design thinking framework, followed by Roshan, who would give you present a case study for you, which will show how design thinking is applied in a real life problem solving situation. So, with this, let's get into the very first part in terms of understanding what is design thinking. Before we understand what is design thinking, it's important for us to understand what is innovation. There are many, many definitions for innovation. I've just chosen something that I like and which captures the entire, all the 3 dimensions of innovation. So that's why I thought I would share this with you here. So innovation is truly about creating value for the customer from an insightful idea and bringing this idea successfully to the market. So if you see the key words here, one is value, second is insightful idea, and the third is path to market. So if you have an idea, you should be able to create value for the customer from your idea, and you should also be able to overcome all the barriers and bring your idea to the market. So that's when your idea becomes an innovation. And to for you to appreciate how difficult it is, for every 100 good ideas, typically only 2 or 3 ideas become innovation. All the other 97 ideas fail to reach the ultimate state and become an innovation for a variety of reasons. And that's why bringing such ideas to the market is quite challenging. And design thinking is one very powerful approach which will help you to convert many of your ideas successfully into innovation. Because if you have an idea, you want to be among those 3 ideas which become innovation, not among the 97 ideas which get killed at different stages of the journey. So design thinking, when you learn and practice this skill, it will make sure that your idea really becomes an innovation. That's the reason why I thought I will just introduce innovation to you and then talk about design thinking. See, when we talk of innovation, I'm sure all of us have come up with innovative ideas, but what is really holding us back many a times is that fear of rejection. Many a times we get worried that if our idea is rejected, if somebody finds fault with their idea, criticizes our idea, then you do like it. So you feel that better not share an idea because somebody may criticize it, somebody may laugh at it. This fear of rejection is very strong, and that's a very strong barrier for many of our innovators. And the very first step for us to start our innovation journey, be it design thinking, be any other approach, the very first step is to overcome this fear of rejection. Then we'll be very, very successful design thinkers, innovators, and mobility engineers. So, this is the very first and most important thing that we need to do, how to overcome the fear of rejection. For us to understand this, we need to understand how our brain is structured. So here you see on this picture, there are some people who are on the right side who are painting, music, playing some music, then sitting and meditating. Somebody is flying a kite, and somebody is just sitting under a tree. Variety of things you see people doing in a very relaxed environment. And then the other side you see people are sitting in cubicles and they are all working in a very focused manner. And these two atmospheres, these two environments look quite different. So if you wonder which environment is more conducive for innovation, some of you may think you need freedom for innovation, so I will be more creative, I'll be more innovative. The right side, which is outdoor setup, and where I have the freedom to do a variety of things, that's where I would be more innovative. But some of you may think that you would be more innovative and productive the left side, where you are in a cubicle sitting before your computer and you are deeply involved doing something with full concentration. So you think that real innovation happens on the left side. So there has been a long debate in terms of where does innovation happen. So the right side is the creative part of your brain. The brain has two parts in a sense, the left brain, which is a logical brain, and the right brain, which is a creative brain. The actual structure of the brain is a lot more complex than that. But from a simple functional perspective, it is a very simple picture for us to visualize that there is a logical brain, which is we call as a left brain, and there is a creative brain, which we call as a right brain. So where does innovation happen? If we try to figure out, looks like actually the real innovation happens at the intersection of these two. Because the right brain is good at coming up with new ideas, and the left brain is very good at analyzing and strengthening this idea further. So, in the context of innovation, you need both aspects. You need to come up with fresh ideas, and you also need to analyze and apply your domain knowledge and strengthen these ideas. So, you need to constantly switch back and forth between the right and the left, between the creative brain and the logical brain. And the true innovation happens when there is a continuous dialogue between the two, the logical and the creative parts of your brain. So, this is where design thinking comes because as an engineer, we are taught to become very analytical in our approach. We get to learn a lot of physics and mathematics and engineering by which we are able to solve problems. That's a very strong analytical approach. But there is also this right brain, which is a creative brain in you, which once in a while gets a chance when you're trying to paint something or play some music, do something creative. And very rarely we bring this creative brain into force when you are trying to solve an engineering problem. So, is there a way for us to really bring these two together, even when you are solving a technical problem, even when you are dabbling with a new technical idea? Is it possible for you to bring the logical left brain and the creative right brain both together so that you come up with new ideas and these ideas are also technically feasible ideas? That's where design thinking comes to your help, and it's a very, very powerful approach. That's the reason why I thought I should introduce design thinking to you early on, because this will be one of the most important skill for the future mobility engineers. To introduce design thinking to you, I have a small story which goes back to the early days of design thinking. And the what you see on my screen is something very colorful, something very beautiful and nice. But if you very closely observe, and you'd be able to recognize that it's actually an MRI machine, a magnetic resonance imaging machine that you'd see in the hospitals. So you'd wonder why somebody actually has decorated this MRI machine the way it looks on this chart. So there is a story behind it. The inventor of the magnetic resonance imaging MRI, he was a physicist by training, and he had come up with this great invention which has helped so many people. And then these were installed across almost all the hospitals. And a few years into this, one day he was curious as to he wanted to go and see how the patients are getting benefited by this MRI. And so he happened to go to a hospital, which was the pediatric ward of a hospital, where very young children are being treated. And then when he goes there, he sees that there is a young child who has to be maybe less than 10-year-old child, and then she has to undergo a MRI scan, and then this child is strapped onto this platform, and then the whole platform moves into this circular tunnel kind of a structure that you see there, which is where the magnets are kept in a concentric manner. That's where the imaging happens. So she has to slide into the dark tunnel kind of a area, and there she has to remain there for almost half an hour when the imaging is being done. And through this entire exercise, she cannot move. She has to keep herself rigid so that the image quality comes out pretty well. So for this child, it is a very, very uncomfortable experience, very scary experience to be alone in this dark space and remain not move, remain rigid for half an hour when the whole scanning is done. So when the inventor of the MRI saw this, he felt very unhappy about it. He said, my customer is not having a pleasant experience. Although the MRI is helping the patient, the use of the MRI, the actual application, should be a pleasant experience for the end user. So, what can I do to make it a nice experience when it is being used? That's what made him think to say, keeping this child in mind, can I modify the MRI machine in such a way that the child likes this entire 30 minutes that she has to spend inside the MRI machine? That gave him idea of converting this mission into a theme which is like a exploring under the ocean, like a Finding Nemo kind of a theme, where with the right visuals and the right music, one will be able to imagine how it is to go under the ocean and explore things. And this was the kind of experience they could create. And the half an hour when the child has to remain rigid for the scan went up so fast because the child was fully engaged with all the visuals and the musics and the entire theme that the whole thing went off so fast, the child never felt that it is an uncomfortable experience. The whole thing was so pleasant that some of these children, in fact, came back and asked the doctor, can I have one more scan? So, this was an early example of how an inventor, a very deep technologist, could understand what is it for the end user, the customer, to use a product and put himself to work on how to make that experience a pleasant experience. See, imagine MRI is such a deeply technical mission. So, and it's already doing its job of imaging and diagnosing and helping the doctor to cure the patient. But still, the experience of going through MRI scan was not a pleasant experience. And this inventor, keeping that young child in mind, he was able to bring in some fresh ideas to convert the MRI machine in such a way that the whole MRI experience itself became such a pleasant experience. So, this is where your creativity and your analytical engineering skills can come together, not only to create a functionally great product, but also a product which gives a wow experience for the end user. So, as engineers who build products, it's important for all of us to keep our customers in mind and make sure that whatever we build gives a great experience for the end user. So, in simple terms, design thinking is all about bringing your heart and your brain together. The emotional part of you and the analytical part of you, if they can come together and identify the right problems and solve those problems, then you are a true design thinker. And when we do this, we look at three important aspects: the desirability, the feasibility, and the viability. The true human centered design lies at the interface of these three important parameters. Desirability is when you build a product or a solution, understanding whether your customers will desire it. Feasibility is technical feasibility. As an engineer, you would know that something is technically feasible or not. Do we have the technology in place to make it work? Finally, the viability is economic viability. In the sense, when you make this product and build a business around it, will it be profitable? Will it really make money? These are the three important filters that a design thinker would take all his ideas through. These are the three pillars of human centered design thinking. And there are five stages for design thinking. The first is where you empathize with the customer by understanding what are their problems, what are their constraints, what are their pain points. The next stage is define, where based on this understanding, you are going to define the problem that you are going to solve. Then ideate, where you will generate a lot of ideas to solve the problem. Prototype, which is a very important stage where you build physical prototypes and see how it works, what doesn't work, and use this to iteratively improve the idea. And finally, test, which is coming up with simple ways and means in which you can test your product and see how close it is to meeting the customer requirements. These five stages are the backbone of the design thinking framework. And once I complete my introduction, my colleague Ms. Tuti is going to take you through all these five stages in great detail. So, as a design thinker, you need to keep the human at the center. This human is your customer, is the end user of the product. So, you have to keep that person right at the center and then look at whether he or she would desire the solution, the product that you are building, whether you have the technology ready to make your idea work. And finally, when you build this product and build a business around it, will it be economically viable? So, if you understand these three, then your idea will be at the interface of all these three, and it will be one of the most high impact innovations that you would ever come across. So, that's the power of human centered design thinking. So, in terms of a definition for design thinking, it is simply about believing that each one of us can make a difference and having a very intentional, very clear, focused process in order to get to new relevant solutions that create positive impact. This desire to make a positive impact is very, very important. Design thinking gives you the faith in your creative abilities and a process for transforming difficult challenges into opportunities for design. So that way, this really empowers you. This gives you great power to transform your ideas to innovation. So, talking about products, talking about innovation, I'll just want to share a small interesting story with you to tell you why it is so important to understand your customers. So there is this company which wanted to make soap, a detergent powder for rural markets in India. So the primary function of a product like a detergent is to remove the dirt from the cloth. That's a primary function. So this company went on to make a product which can wash your clothes very fast. Okay, because they know that people are busy, so they want to spend less time on washing and have clean clothes ready in a shorter time. So they came up with a detergent formulation where they'll be able to complete the washing of the clothes in almost half the time. Typically, you may remember you would soak the clothes in the soap water for some time before the washing starts. Their detergent, the new innovative detergent, was such that you need to soak for only half the time. With that, it will become thoroughly clean. So they launched this product, and then they were very confident that this product will be a big success and it is going to sell like hotcakes. But surprisingly, they found that initially people bought this detergent powder, but after a few weeks, people stopped buying. People didn't want to go for a detergent powder that will do the washing in half the time. So the company was very surprised. Why is it We thought everybody wants to save some time. They can get some rest if they finish their washing fast. So why is it that our customers don't like finishing the washing in half the time? Why is it they don't care for it? What is the problem? But these product designers were actually people in the city who might be using a washing machine for washing, or at least washing the clothes within their house. But this product is for rural market. And those of you who are familiar with the way clothes are washed in Indian villages, you would know that the clothes are taken to a common place, which could be a well, a pond, or a riverside. And then the women who take these clothes for washing, typically they soak the clothes and then wait for the soaking to be complete. And during that time of soaking, they all sit together and chat and exchange information, maybe a bit of gossip. And that's a time when they spend time with friends and have some fun. Because once they finish this and go back home, they have a very busy schedule and they may hardly get rest. They are going to be so busy. But this half an hour or 1 hour, they have come out of the house to do the washing. That's a sacred time for them because they get to meet their friends and chat with them. So, there, instead of half an hour soaking, if you're going to introduce a detergent which will need only, say, 10 or 15 minutes of soaking, that means you're cutting down the time that they are spending with their friends. Instead of half an hour of chatting with friends, somebody tells you that you can chat for only 15 minutes. Would you like it? I don't think anyone of you would like it. So, but the people who designed this product were not really very familiar with the way the washing of clothes happens in the villages. That's the reason why they were not aware that the soaking time is actually important and the customer doesn't want to reduce the soaking time. Okay. So many a times, even if you are designing automotive products, it's very important for us to observe the customers, understand what they like and what they don't like. It's very difficult for us to assume something, go ahead, build the product, and then realize that the customers actually do not like it. So that's the reason why we need to train ourselves in design thinking and spend sufficient time with customers to understand what they like and what they don't like and build only those features that the customers like into our products. One way to do it is to spend time with the customers and observe lots and lots of things. So here is a story where a company came up with a very innovative product, a multi-million dollar product platform, because somebody observed very carefully something very interesting. Okay, this goes back to the time when two scientists working for a company, they were attending a conference in Japan, and on the last day of the conference, they were taken for a tour of the place. And they were taken to a place, which a small cottage industry, a small factory, where they make wine, which is based on rice. It's a rice-based wine called sake. When they went and saw the people who were working in this factory, they observed something very interesting. Even the very aged people in this factory, although they are quite old, their hands alone was looking very young. The skin had no wrinkles, it was very smooth and shiny, and the hand looked so young that you think the person is maybe less than 20 years old. But actually, the many of the people working there were more than 60 years old. So this was a very interesting observation to see why the hands of the person alone looked so young. And these two scientists were curious, so they took some samples of. They observed that their hands of the people are always soaked in this broth, the fermenting broth, which is a rice based thing, which ultimately gets transformed to the wine. Their hands are always in contact with this. So they thought maybe that fermenting broth is something good for the skin. So let's study that. They took samples of that back and then studied and then extracted certain compounds from that, which they figured out could be very good for the skin. And when they could make this in the lab, they could put it in cream, moisturizing creams and lotions. that became one of a very famous brand of a skincare product, which ultimately led to a multi-million business for that particular company. Simple observation that the hands of a person alone looks less than 20-year-old, whereas the person is actually 60 plus. So what could be the reason? So when I talk about understanding the customer's friends, one of the most important thing for you as an engineer is to observe things around you. That's where the whole innovation starts. So I want each one of you to train yourself to observe things very, very carefully. The whole innovation journey starts with such interesting observations. So I've told you a few things in terms of I introduced the concept of innovation to you. I introduced the interplay between the logical brain and the creative brain, the left and the right brain. Then I also introduced design thinking to you. And finally, I emphasized on the importance of observation. So now we are more or less done with the introduction part. So I want to move to the second stage where my colleague Ms. Tuti is going to take you through the 5 stages of design thinking in great detail. So at this stage, I'm going to stop sharing and Stuti would take over.
Sure, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Shankar. So, as Dr. Shankar has already mentioned, that design thinking is a non-linear iterative process that we should use to understand users' challenge, assumptions, redefine problems, and create innovative solution to prototype and test, involving 5 very important stages, which we'll be discussing now. First one is empathize, second is define, ideate, prototype, and test. Now let's quickly run through all of these stages in details. So the first stage of design thinking process is to gain an empathic understanding of the problem you're trying to solve. This involves consulting your experts or the customers who are dealing with the problem about the area of concern through observing, listening, and engaging, and eventually empathizing with people to understand their experience and motivation, as well as immersing yourself in the physical environment so that you can go deeper personal understanding of the issues involved. Empathy is crucial to a human centered design process because it allows design thinkers to set aside their own assumptions. Sometimes we delve into assumptions and start becoming biased. And in order to gain insight, it is very important to, to avoid any assumptions. And as it is mentioned, that try to hear what they hear, try to see what your customers see, and feel what your customer feel. Only then you'll be able to experience the real pain they feel. So in this perspective, I would like to showcase you one real time example where you'll see that people who are collecting data in the picture, who are talking over here, are the Mahindra engineers who design tractors and farm equipment. So they visit farms, observe, listen, and engage with the farmers who use Mahindra products. And then they design the product. They immerse themselves in the lifestyle of a farmer, gather the insight, and believe me, there's one incident I would like to quote over here. Once, while collecting the data and insights from the farmers, truck owners, fleet owners, designers realized the need of the connected vehicle platform. And Mahindra was able to launch a new product, DigiSense. So DigiSense is one connected vehicle platform which helps the tractor owners, truck fleet owners, light vehicle owners to connect with the real-time performance of their own vehicle, which was missing in the market before. This product worked very well with the fleet owners who were not able to get their fleet, or the performance identified. So through DigiSense, they use sensors and IoT. A box is attached in the the vehicle, and through the mobile network providers, Mahindra servers try to get all the data, and then eventually through mobile network, Mahindra is able to provide all the details to the business customers. So you see, now the customers are able to identify the real-time data just a click away. So it was only empathy which was able to make Mahindra DigiSense possible and to get near to the people. And that's how empathy plays a vital role in design thinking process. And there are many such cases. However, now we would like to move on stage 2, which is define. Now let's talk about second stage. The define mode of the design process is all about bringing clarity and focus on the design space. It is your chance and responsibility as a design thinker to define the challenge you are taking on based on whatever you have learned about your user and about the context. After becoming an expert in the inciting on the subject and gaining valuable insights or empathizing by the person you are designing, this stage is about making sense of the widespread information you have gathered. So the goal of define mode is to craft a meaningful and actionable problem statement, because if someone just says some qualitative input, it is your your role where you have to make a meaningful and actionable problem statement. That is what we call a point of view. This should be guiding statement that focuses on insights and needs of a particular user, or insights actually don't give, will not give you the obvious answers. Rather, you need to synthesize all the observation and finding and get into insightful opportunity. In define stage also, I would like to showcase a scenario from a global car manufacturing company who launched who launched one very successful car across the globe. Also thought to launch, obviously, then once the product was hit, they also thought to launch it in India, because India being very potential market, we all know. And they were very sure that their product will be very successful. But to their surprise, the product did not work at all. It failed badly. And because there was so much of investment was put, the entire company really felt and worried that what was the reason why they are not able to successful. They are not able to make this product successful in India. And here I would like to bring your notice. The reason might look very silly, but after putting the design thinking experts team, having a huge detailed research, they gathered a lot of insight. They really got a lot of insights like drivability or something else, or the seat structure or the boot space. There were many points. But do you know what? They were able to define one major problem, which might look very silly, but then was very effective when they were able to understand. And that was the places where this global company launched its product before was car owner driven countries. So the car which they launched was driven and owned by the same person. So there was one feature which was power window at the driver's seat. However, the manual windows were there at the rear seat. So it was very successful because it was cost effective for the company and for the person also, because it was on that perspective. Now in India, when they did a detailed test, they did a detailed insighting, they realized, the researchers, the car company realized that because in India, the car which they introduced was very much popular in chauffeur driven person. So the car owner was sitting at the rear and the chauffeur was driving it. So of course it was a matter of esteem. How would an owner would like to do a manual window However, a chauffeur was using a power window. So that clicked. Okay, so you see the power of defining over here. They defined the problem and quickly changed the feature, and again it became a blockbuster. So you see how important define as a step in design thinking. Now moving towards one of the very important stage, which is not very new, but very critical in design thinking, which is ideate. Ideate is a systematic way to, to ideate. We keep on doing ideation through brainstorming or consulting, discussing, but today I'll be taking you with one of the very important tool, which is divergent and convergent. So if you see in the chart, there is a funnel where the funnel is being divided into three different segments. The ideas are flowing. So at the beginning, when you start taking the insights, you'll get variety of ideas. So for example, if you start taking the ideas without any inhibition, without any judgment, start picking all the ideas. And at the beginning, if for instance, you take 50 ideas, you are able to gather 50 ideas, which you've observed in the market, or you were able to get into the shoes of the customer and found that okay, these are the 50 ideas which I'll be working on. So this is divergent side of the collection of the data without any inhibition, without any judgment. And then moving forward, when you try to cross check, when you try to narrow down that what exactly the customer desire is, then you try to converge and you stream down or you narrow down those 50 ideas, that okay, out of these 50 ideas, my customer needs only the 30 ideas which are more reliable or more desirable for our customers. So out of those 50, you narrow down to 30. Now, of course, you've understood that what your customer needs, but at the end, it is very important for us to understand that are we capable on technical front or not? Will we be able to make it feasible? Do we have the technology to make it possible? So after doing the again divergent kind of feeling, we just got those 30 ideas, we worked on that, and then after having all those constraints, we identified that okay, only 10 ideas are something which is desired by our customers and what is technically feasible as well for us. So you see how the funnel is narrowing down and giving you or concluding with a sensible solution where first you are diverging and then you're converging whatever is technically feasible. And at the end, of course, every business works for revenues. You also need to identify, you also need to understand that what are those 10 ideas, out of those, which idea will be viable for our business. So again, narrow down on that, and you might come up with only one or two basic ideas which will eventually be effective for your business. So in this, you will consider all three segments of customer desirability, technical feasibility, and business viability. So we have covered three very important stages, and now I would like to draw your attention to stage 4, which is prototype. So prototype is one of the most important segment, because many times if we talk about startups, or for that matter, we always jump into that, okay, I have a brilliant idea. Let's get started. Let's start investing money. Let's start pushing all our investment, because I'm sure that this will gonna work. Definitely it will gonna work. But to be on a safer side in this volatile market, it is very prone if you make a prototype, because and it does not, you don't have to be like created full system, fully functional, really attractive. It is not required on that. In this stage, we identify one aspect of the solution to create dirty or quick prototype from the different sets of idea we have generated at the ideation stage. So prototype is generally used to evaluate a new design to enhance precision. And definitely, this helps you to make it possible without investing so much. It gives you the scope to make changes in case it is required. For that matter, not only startups or small projects are using this. Here, I would like to show clay model. Even automotive companies use clay modeling first before starting with a big production statement. They just start with some clay modeling so that it will be easy to visualize, it will be easy to criticize, get the feedback, get it tested, and then you'll have the entire segment to improve in case it is not matching as per the expectation of customer. So once you have this prototype, you go quickly to the stage 5, which is test. Through test, you are able to get the feedback on your prototype. As you remember, I mentioned getting feedback on prototype will not dishearten you because you've not invested huge amount. So the good thing is you still have the scope to improve. There are various ways to collect the feedback from the customers. However, questionnaire is one of the best way. You can also have a telephonic conversation, face to face, whatever suits. But always remember, at the test stage, the ideal audience should be selected. What what I meant is, for example, if you've launched a product for youth, don't go to a family person. It is good to have their consensus also, but always ensure that you are taking the test, you are taking the feedback from your ideal audience. If it is for youth, talk to them, get the ideas, let them be critical, but then that will be very effective. So, this was all about 5 stages of design thinking: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and eventually test. And now, to make you all understand the real time, I would request my colleague Roshan Mehta to share you a case study on that. To you, Roshan. Thank you. Roshan, you're on mute.
Very sorry. Yeah. We will use a case study to describe how design thinking can be used to solve a real life problem. I would like to show you a case study. So this is a fleet owner of an ABC company who is 35 years old and has 30 commercial vehicles in his fleet, which operates across pan India. The ABC company always receives regular complaints from his drivers about the vehicle performance. He receives complaints from his clients about a delay in delivery of goods, and he is not able to pay back his loans due to less income. The owner of this fleet company, the ABC company, narrated this problem to his one of his close friends, who in turn is a design thinking consultant. And narrated his problem to his design thinking consultant, and the set of team from his the team members of his design thinking consultant followed the same steps which Stuti just now introduced to us, which is the empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. So the team took this first stage of empathize, where they engage with the fleet owner and got to know what the actually is happening. So they were telling about the performance of a vehicle is affected, delay in return of vehicle, increase in expense on fuel and maintenance, payment of taxes and salary, surge and increase rates. And when they went in real time and observed what it is happening to the fleet in real time, they observed that the vehicle is standing idle, the driver is sleeping during sometimes, and there is a fuel being stolen and overspeeding of vehicle. They are loading non-tracked goods, which is the benefit for the driver as well as the assistant, and it's not a benefit for the fleet owner. And when they listened, they felt that the driver feels like they listen directly from the driver, as they feel that he is less paid, he's having unbalanced life, and he is always on road. There was a painful, like he was the reflection of light in night is very painful, and due to which sometimes to drive in night and late night they get addicted to drugs. The team collected enough amount of insights and then they moved to the next stage, which is the stage 2, which is the defined stage. So defined stage is all about defining the problem from the by defining the prominent aspects of it, like identifying the needs from the insights which they have gathered, and crafting those needs of the user, the customer, and to a point of view statements. So the team noted down, went back on the needs of the customer, and they saw that the customer needs was like he would need a dashboard to monitor a vehicle performance. He would need to monitor the fuel usage, tracking of the vehicle, optimum loading capacity, driving patterns, and increased operating efficiency. These were the set of needs where the a customer would need, and the insights was like the due to wrong driving patterns, overloading of the vehicle, the idle time of a vehicle was very high, and then shortcoming of fuel, and also the additional expenses for the maintenance which they were paying, the fleet owner was paying, and eventually the unhappy driver. So the team crafted many point of view statements. For the illustration, I would like to show the two such point of view statements. What the team crafted was like, how might we help the ABC company to prevent the theft of fuel, and what could be done to make an unhappy driver a happy driver. So the point of view statements what the set of team members, the design thinking consultants, crafted was, how might we help this ABC company to prevent the theft of fuel, and what could be done to make an unhappy driver a happy driver. Moving ahead, the team went to the ideate stage, where ideation is again bifurcated into the two steps, where being like initially you be a divergent thinker, then you be a convergent thinker. So in the convergent phase, what happened, like the set of design thinking consultants did go for a volume of ideas. They deferred the judgment at the beginning. They built upon the other ideas of the other consultants, and they encourage the wild and crazy ideas amongst. So on the left hand side of the funnel, where you could see the number of ideas which were pouring in the divergent thinking phase, and in the middle you could see three concentric circles, where the team need to converge to the particular set of top three ideas or top one or four ideas which would meet the three criteria. Those are the desirability, technical feasibility, and the viability. The desirability is that the user needs, and is there any technical feasibility for it, and is that particular idea making business or economic viability, and finally is there the promising idea would generate out of this stage. The set of team members took some promising ideas of those things and move ahead to the next stage, which is the prototype stage, where the team consultants installed the fuel sensors with the GPS enabled, which is integrated to the existing telematics. And the other set of the idea was like, they partnered with the highway dhabas, the restaurants, and they informed them not to collect some money, which the money for the food which they consume, and for the identified set of vehicles. And they also had an idea added to this, like, can we swap the drivers at a different location? So prototyping here is about, it's it's just giving a one as like driving one aspect of the entire big solution. So this consultants took these two major aspects of the from the big solution, and they were trying to build upon this by installing the fuel sensors, and also partnering with the highway dhabas in the restaurants, and swapping the drivers using GPS locations. So if you remember, the example of swapping the drivers happens very well in Indian Railways, where the consultant thoughts, can we borrow this idea from Indian Railways, put it here in the highways, and where the lorry moves from point A to point B, but the driver will be keep on rotating in the different stages, so that he is also happy. When they really tested this idea after implementing it in the prototype stage, they sent this vehicle to a particular desired fleet to point from point A to point B. They installed this sensors in it. They have partnered with the highways, dhabas, and the restaurants in the designated route, and they also had a plan of swapping the drivers at an optimum time. after a regular travel. So they tested this based on again the same criteria with have this idea met the user needs. So the needs of the driver as well as the needs of a fleet owner. Have whatever the technology they have commissioned or they have installed, is it technically feasible? Is it giving any right inputs for them with respect to the real time data what they collect? And what at the end of the day the amount they invested for it, and are they reaping any good benefits, are they increasing their profits with the help of this idea, which is the business viability. With this, when the team went back and gave this entire solution to the fleet owner, they were actually reaping good amount of benefits, and they were able to draw sufficient amount of income also. And with this approach where you could see the design thinking approach, where you could see a happy face of a fleet owner as well as a happy face of a driver, where with a human centered approach both their needs were met. Unlike if you would have just installed a telematic solution and providing a need addressing the need only of the fleet owner, where still the problem wouldn't have been solved, because the that driver would have easily nudged about the technology, and he would have still he would have still play around a fool. But here we have, with the help of design thinking, which is like a powerful tool, which with the human centered approach we have met both the needs of the customer as well as the fleet. The customer here is the fleet owner as well as the happy the driver. I would like to re-emphasize here, like the design thinking process is an iterative process. It is not a linear process where you see for all the 5 stages, and it's actually a non-linear process. So once you go from stage 1 to stage 2, that is from empathize to define, then go from define to ideate, and ideate to prototype, prototype to test. So it's an like it's not a linear path. If you don't meet a particular criteria in the defined stage, or if you don't meet the criteria in the ideate stage, you need to come back to the particular stage, rework on it, and then you have to proceed it further. Like if you don't do that, you're eventually you would not be able to solve the problem in the overall. With this, the summary of our talk is like we introduced the 5 stages. We introduced about what is design thinking, which was introduced to you by Dr. Shankar Venugopal. Then Stuti introduced us the 5 stages of design thinking, and I introduced you an example of design thinking with a scenario of a case study. We would like to take a quiz here. So you can drop your notes on the email box, as well as you can drop a note there. Here are some set of questions, like what are the 3 important characteristics of an innovation? What are the 5 stages of design thinking? What are the 3 modes in which you will connect with the users in empathize stage? What are the 2 modes of thinking that you will use during ideation? And what are the 3 criteria that are used during convergent thinking? So these are the set of assessment quiz here for you. And with this, I would like to give back to Dr. Shankar.
Thanks, Roshan. So I guess we could in this 1 hour, we could cover the basics of design thinking, the 5 stages of the design thinking framework, also share an example of a real life case study, how it is being applied. So now I think we will spend the next 5-10 minutes taking some of the questions from you related to this design thinking in the context of automotive engineering. So Roshan, I would request you to look at the questions that has come from the audience, and we try to answer them.
One question is like, how about thinking of a career in design thinking in automotive field?
Sure, sure. I think this is a great question. Design thinkers are in great demand in many engineering domains, and it's not just in automotive. Every engineering domain, every industry needs design thinkers. So, what would be quite obvious to you at the end of this is engineering skill is important, definitely it gives you all the analytical powers to come up with great solutions. But your creative skills also becomes equally important. That's a root of innovation. So you need to balance your creativity and your analytical knowledge coming from your domain. And as a design thinker, you would be able to balance both of this. So automotive domain, the automotive industry would definitely need many automotive engineers who are also design thinkers. That's when we'll be able to build innovative products and compete in the market. So if you are interested in design thinking and you're also interested in automotive engineering, I'm sure you'll have a very interesting career ahead. And this is true not only of automotive engineering, many other industries, many other domains which are trying to build innovative products that appeal to their customers. They would all look for their engineers to come with design thinking skills and ability. This is a very important future skill for all of us.
Thank you, sir. I'm not seeing any more questions here.
Uh,
So,
so what we could do is it's 7 o'clock now. So
yeah,
maybe in the interest of time, we would wrap up the session today. But if there are more questions that comes from the audience, we will get to see it through the Google form and we could respond to them by email. So
sure.
let's wrap up the session for today by wishing every single person out there in the audience a very happy Deepavali. And thank you so much for joining us for this session. See you all. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Wish you all very happy Diwali.
Thank you all. Wish you all very happy Diwali.